Welcome back now for your 5-day weather forecast. We go outside to Catherine Ward.
Today, light rains are expected to last part of the day. Temperatures will drop and could give way to flurries in the early evening. While a high of 11 is anticipated, you might want to have your winter coat ready as a low of 0 is expected to follow. Tomorrow, there will be a mix of sun and cloud. There is a 30% chance of flurries throughout the day. Temperature highs will reach 3 degrees, followed by a low of 0. Sunday will be mostly cloudy again with a potential for snow. A high of 2 and a low of -4 is expected. Monday, the sun will try and peek through the clouds, bringing a high of 6 and a low of 0. And Tuesday, get ready for more snow with a high of 3 and a low of -1. That's all for your 5-day weather forecast. I'm Catherine Ward. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Catherine. Liberal leadership candidate Justin Trudeau is apologizing for comments made in a 2-year-old video. In a 2010 interview, Trudeau took aim at Alberta politicians, saying Canada is better off being led by Quebecois leaders. He also says the only good prime ministers came from Quebec, referencing Chrétien, Paul Martin, and his father. Conservatives fired back, saying it's proof of an anti-Alberta bias in the Liberal Party. Trudeau says the interview was taken out of context.
Public Safety Minister Vic Toews has ordered the RCMP to fix a deep-rooted gender bias. Addressing RCMP Commissioner Bob Paulson, Toews says he's frustrated with Paulson for his lack of action. He also slammed the commissioner for a bias in promotion of women in the upper ranks. The commissioner was given a deadline for December 11th to come up with fair goals. Paulson hasn't commented on the issue, but Toews says it's time to take action.
Now turning to the Middle East, the atmosphere between Israel and Gaza remains tense. Reports indicate Israeli troops shot a Palestinian man and injured several others along the Gaza-Israel border fence. So far, this appears to be an isolated incident. The violence has not yet posed a threat to the agreed-upon ceasefire. The Gaza Prime Minister has urged his people to respect the truce, as any retaliation could jeopardize potential gains from the brokered deal.
There's unrest in Egypt over the country's president granting himself more power. Mohamed Morsi issued an order preventing any court from overturning his decisions. Critics say this means that he will run the country unchecked until a new constitution is granted. 2,000 people were protesting in Tahrir Square throughout the night, chanting Morsi is a dictator. They gathered again for the 4th day in Cairo. In 2011 uprisings against Egypt's President Hosni Mubarak, over 800 people were killed and 6,000 were injured.
Israeli officials say they have arrested the man behind the Tel Aviv bus attack. The bus bomb was set off earlier this week in Tel Aviv and injured almost 30 people. Officials say the explosive was connected to a cell phone on the bus and detonated remotely. The attack is said to be a terrorist attack and was meant to sabotage the ceasefire between Hamas and the Israelis. Officials say the bomber is connected to Hamas and Islamic Jihad militant groups and has admitted to carrying out the attack.
Pakistan's Malala Yousafzai could soon be the youngest recipient of the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize. Yousafzai was shot in the head by a Taliban gunman last month for advocating on the behalf of young Pakistani women for their right to education. In October, Pakistan's parliament decided schools will be fined $500 if children are refused education. Here in Canada, political leaders, including Prime Minister Stephen Harper, have signed a petition requesting the 2013 Peace Prize goes to 15-year-old Yousafzai for her activism.
Mexico's president is seeking a name change for his country. Mexico adopted the name the United Mexican State, or Estado Unido Mexicano, in the 1800s. President Felipe Calderón says he wants to change the name to Mexico. He says Mexico doesn't need a name that no one uses regularly and emulates another country.
And now with your sports news, here's Elton Hobson.
Thanks, guys. While the two sides in the NHL lockout may not be talking, there's yet more heated words in the continuing controversy around Washington Capitals star Roman Hamrlik. Yesterday, we reported on the harsh words Hamrlik had for the NHL Players Union, and Executive Director Donald Fehr in particular. Those comments didn't sit well with some players, including Montreal Canadiens forward Eric Cole, who took issue with Hamrlik for his attitude. Now the 38-year-old veteran is firing back. In an interview with TSN, Hamrlik said the following, quote, "I've been in the league for 20 years and faced 3 lockouts. There's only 14 other players in the league that are facing their 3rd career lockout. I believe I've earned the right to say what I think." Then he addressed Cole specifically, saying, quote, "Eric Cole has his opinion like everyone else. I'm a little bit disappointed in what he said. What I do know is he has 3 years left on his contract, and I'm sure he got a nice signing bonus this summer, so I don't think he didn't have to sacrifice anything. So good for him. He has a good agent." While the Grey Cup will be awarded this Sunday, the CFL handed out several other honors at the CFL Awards last night. The night's big winner was Argonauts wide receiver Chad Owens, who was named the CFL's most outstanding player in voting by the Football Reporters of Canada and CFL head coaches. The Flying Hawaiian led the CFL in receiving yards, return yards, and all-purpose yards, with a league record of over 3,800 total yards. Meanwhile, Calgary Stampeders running back John Cornish won the award for top Canadian in the CFL on the back of his more than 1,400 rushing yards on the season. Before the big game kicks off on Saturday, another important championship game takes over the Rogers Centre tonight, as the McMaster Marauders take on the Laval Rouge et Or in the Vanier Cup. The game is a rematch of last year's Vanier Cup, which was widely considered to be the greatest football game in Canadian college sports history. McMaster edged Laval in double overtime in that game to take their first national championship. The highly anticipated rematch has attracted a lot of hype, with 33,000 plus fans expected to pile into Rogers Centre, setting an all-time Vanier Cup attendance record. Finally, let's take a look at the Hawks' schedule for this upcoming weekend. This Saturday, the men's and women's volleyball teams head to London to take on Fanshawe, while the men's and women's basketball teams head to Windsor to face St. Clair. The basketball teams will stay on the road Sunday, traveling to Sarnia to take on Lambton. That's all for your sports news. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Elton. After the break, we'll get the latest in entertainment from Aaron Eaton.
Halle Berry's ex is arrested after brawling with her fiancé, and Kesha shares pics of an unusual crafting project. All this and more after the break.